She dumped me saying, "We'll still be friends." I agreed, until she realized friendship didn't cover rent, car repairs, or emotional support, especially once I started dating her roommate. Hello Reddit I plus here. I was 31 when my girlfriend decided she was suddenly too free-spirited to be tied down to someone like me. Her name was Lila, and for 2 years, she'd been both my partner and, if I'm honest, my project. She called herself an artist, though her career mostly meant working 20 hours a week at a coffee shop, doodling in sketchbooks, and telling people about the novel she'd write someday. Her friends adored that identity of hers. She was the dreamy painter-poet who sipped red wine from chipped glasses and complained about capitalism while wearing scarves in the middle of summer. Me? I owned a small auto restoration business on the edge of town. I spent my days elbow-deep in engines, coaxing life out of classic cars people thought were beyond saving. Lila said she admired that about me, but around her friends, I always caught the backhanded comments. Oil stains under the nails aren't exactly cultured. You're lucky she sees something in you. She laughed them off, called them just jokes. But over time, I understood what she really thought. To her, I was stability. Rent money, a car mechanic who could fix her beat-up Honda every 3 months for free, a steady paycheck so she could float through life chasing inspiration. I paid 80% of our rent in that overpriced apartment she just had to have because it was close to the art district. I covered groceries, bills, furniture. She, meanwhile, covered, what? A Netflix subscription and maybe a third of the internet bill. Still, I didn't mind. Not at first. I liked being useful. I liked knowing she could lean on me, but I should have seen the cracks forming long before the night she broke it off. It was a Tuesday. She came home smelling like espresso and acrylic paint, sat me down at the kitchen table, and delivered what sounded like a carefully rehearsed monologue. I feel stifled, like I can't breathe, like my artistic soul is being caged. You're amazing, you really are, but I need to explore my destiny without feeling held down. You understand, right? I nodded, not because I agreed, but because when an engine is blown, you don't argue with it. You don't plead. You write it off as totaled and move on. And then, right when I thought she'd finished, she reached out, rested her hand on my knee, and said with a syrupy smile, "But we'll always be friends though, right? Friends." Meaning, she still wanted someone to fix her car for free. Still wanted someone to carry the rent when the first of the month rolled around. Still wanted the emotional sponge who'd sit there nodding while she cried about her latest vision quest. That was when it hit me. She wasn't breaking up with a boyfriend. She was reclassifying an asset, so I smiled back at her, slow and calm. Absolutely. Relief spread across her face like sunrise. She thought she'd just scored the best of both worlds, freedom without sacrifice. "Oh, thank God," she said. "You're being so mature about this." I leaned back in my chair. "Of course, that's what friends are for. And since we're friends now, let me give you some advice. You'll want to start looking for a new roommate. I'll be moving out by the end of the week." The smile vanished. "What? You can't be serious." "Dead serious. But where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to pay for this place without you?" I shrugged. "You're resourceful, Lila. A creative like you will figure it out. And hey, friends believe in each other, right?" She followed me around the apartment while I started packing boxes, her tone shifting from disbelief to panic to full-blown bargaining. "You can't just abandon me. The lease is in both our names." "You're right," I said, "which is why I'll pay my half until the end of the month. That gives you 3.5 weeks to find someone new. Or," I paused, turning to face her, "we can break the lease, but that's a $2,000 penalty. 1,000 each." The color drained from her face. She didn't have $1,000. She barely had 100. For the first time, she looked at me not as a safety net, but as a person who was actually leaving. And leave I did. Packed my boxes, loaded up my truck, and within 5 days, I was out. That's when the reality check really began for her. A week later, I got a text in the middle of the night. "Lila, the power's out. You need to come fix it." I called her. "Did you check the breaker box?" "The what?" "You always just handled it." "Then call building maintenance." "But they'll charge for that. Can't you just swing by? As your friend?" "Number. Friends don't cover each other's utilities." Stunned silence on the line. I could almost hear her brain short-circuiting. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my shop with her car rattling like a dying lawnmower. "It's making a noise. Please, just take a look." I wiped my hands on a rag. "Sure, labor and parts will run you about $600. I'll give you the friends and family discount." Her jaw dropped. "You've never charged me before." I smiled. "We're not dating anymore, remember? This is what friendship looks like." She stormed off, muttering about betrayal, about how heartless I was. But the truth was, she wasn't mourning me. She was mourning the collapse of her safety net. Funny enough, a month later, I started dating her roommate. Someone who, unlike Lila, actually worked hard, paid her bills, and never once made me feel like my grease-stained hands made me less than. And for the first time in years, I wasn't anyone's backup plan. After I moved out, I felt lighter than I had in years. My new place wasn't glamorous, just a modest 2-bedroom over a hardware store. But it was mine. No incense smoke in the hallways, no unpaid bills hiding in kitchen drawers, no guilt-tripping speeches about supporting artistic vision. 2 weeks into my freedom, I got a text from someone unexpected, Marissa. Now, Marissa had been Lila's roommate before I moved in. When Lila and I decided to cohabitate, Marissa had graciously found a new apartment down the street with a friend. I always liked her. She was sharp, witty, worked full-time as a nurse, and didn't seem to have patience for Lila's constant dramatics. Her message was short. Marissa, heard you moved out. Good for you. I replied, me, thanks. Best decision I've made in a while. She responded with a laughing emoji and then, Marissa, want to grab a drink sometime? I've got a few stories about your ex that will make you laugh. One drink turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a long walk where I laughed harder than I had in months. By the end of the night, I realized how easy everything felt with her. No games, no backhanded compliments, no dependency. She paid for her own food without blinking. She asked questions about my business like she actually cared. A few weeks later, we were officially dating. That was when the storm hit. Because Lila found out. It started with a barrage of texts. Lila, are you serious right now? Lila, dating my old roommate? Lila, do you have any idea how humiliating this is for me? I didn't reply. Silence was my new strategy. 2 days later, she showed up at my shop, mascara smeared, hands shaking with dramatic flair. How could you do this to me? She demanded. To you? I raised an eyebrow. We're not together anymore. But she was my friend first. It's betrayal. I leaned against the workbench, wiping grease from my fingers. You broke up with me, remember? You wanted freedom. You said I was stifling your artistic destiny. That's not the point. You were supposed to stay single for a while. Give me space to process. I almost laughed. So let me get this straight. You wanted me as your friend, your mechanic, your backup wallet, but you also wanted me to stay celibate until you gave the green light? Her lips tightened. You're cruel. No, Lila. I just finally stopped being convenient. She stormed out, but of course that wasn't the end. Over the next month, she tried everything. Phase 1, the guilt trip. She'd send texts late at night. I can't sleep knowing you're with her. Do you really think she understands you the way I did? I ignored them. Phase 2, the nostalgia attack. She showed up with an old photo album she'd made of our first year together, trying to flip through it like we were on some romantic walk down memory lane. I told her to take it back. Phase 3, the emergency card. Her car broke down again. She called sobbing, stranded at the grocery store. I don't know who else to call. I calmly gave her the number of a tow truck company. Are you serious? You're really going to make me pay for this? Yes, Lila. Welcome to adulthood. That was the last straw. She realized the safety net was gone for good. Meanwhile, things with Marissa were the complete opposite. She respected me. She laughed at my bad jokes. She actually liked the smell of motor oil and said it reminded her of someone building something real, something solid. One night, while we were sitting on my porch eating takeout, she admitted something. You know, I always thought you deserved better than Lila. She used you. I let her. I said quietly. I thought love meant carrying the weight for both of us. Turns out, love's supposed to be two people carrying it together. Marissa smiled. Exactly. And that was the difference. With her, I wasn't a resource. I was a partner. Lila didn't fade from my orbit entirely. Every now and then, I'd hear through mutual friends that she was couch surfing, that she couldn't hold down rent, that she was still talking about someday writing her novel. Always someday, never today. But by then, it didn't matter. I had moved on. Because the truth was, she hadn't just broken up with me that Tuesday night. She'd freed me, and sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, without the people who only ever saw you as a safety net.